Welcome to the Secrets of Personal Injury Law with Colin Bober.
Welcome to the Secrets of Personal Injury Law with Colin Bober. Colin is a personal injury attorney who has represented over 4,000 clients with a gross settlement recovery of over $50 million. I'm your host, Abigail Vaca, and today's episode is the legal and financial implications of settling a personal injury case early. Colin, it's so nice to be with you.
Glad to be back. Thank you.
So to get started, can you tell me, how do attorneys determine if it's the right time to settle, especially when the full extent of a client's injuries are still unknown or maybe ongoing?
Well, the most important consideration is, what does the client want? I mean, I'm a representative of a client, but they're the ultimate deciding factor as to what it is they want. And they're the only ones to be able to determine whether their needs have been met. Being in an accident is a constant disruption of their daily life. And some people don't have the capacity to wait for a longer, drawn-out process. So they're the ones that have to decide based on the advice that we give them. A lot of clients want to make sure that their treatment is complete and they feel as good as possible, and they want to make sure that everything's fully documented before they settle, which is the recommended option. But we also have clients that say, I can't do that. I can't, I've got to take care of my kids. I've got to get back to work. I can't do that. So it's really about making sure that we collect all the requisite information that brings the most value to the case, to present all the factors from the client, whether they give direct testimony or whether they do a victim impact statement, to at least provide their side of the story as to how the accident impacted them, so that they know they had the opportunity to tell their story when a settlement was reached. But ultimately, the settlement authority and the timing is determined by the client themselves based on the advice that they've been provided by us.
So can you tell us a bit about what those potential risks are if you settle a personal injury case early, particularly when long-term medical care or those future expenses are uncertain?
A settlement is just that, a settlement where once it's done, it's done. There is no opportunity to come back later. So if you're in a position where you just want to get it over with and take as much as you can, and that gives you peace of mind as the client, then that is your prerogative and you can do that. But when you do that, you're also signing away your ability to have additional medical care considered, and that is something that the client has to weigh based on their own best interest. That's the only risk, is that if you settle early, then you settle early and there's no opportunity for you to come back for anything that you may need in the future. Which is why it's important to have candid conversations with your doctor about, hey, I'm getting this treatment, but it's not working for me. Can we try something else? Talking to the client, talking to the doctor and saying, I want to try this therapy because this one's not working. Or I'm having this symptom. Can we try something else instead? It's all about a conversation between the client and the doctor as to what is the most effective course of care for them, because attorneys are not qualified to make those determinations, nor should we. And so if the client is candid and can collaborate with their doctor as to what their needs are on an individual basis, because not everybody's the same, then they're more likely to have a more effective treatment process than running somebody through a cookie cutter treatment plan that obviously doesn't fit for everybody. So the best way to get the best benefit out of the process is to be collaborative with your doctor and your attorney, so that your needs have been met and your concerns have been addressed, giving you peace of mind whenever you decide to settle.
So clearly, based on what you're saying, settling early can impact the amount of compensation a client will ultimately receive. And I'm curious how you balance that, especially if future medical needs or treatments aren't fully considered.
Well, you just have to be candid with the client and say, you have a recommendation for a doctor for surgery. Are you going to get that surgery or not? But there are also different ways to get the value out of the case without having to have somebody go under the knife and have surgery. There are ways to say, okay, well, I'm a single mom of 4. I don't have time to have surgery. I don't have anybody to take care of my kids. So we can collaborate with the doctor and say, okay, doctor, based on your evaluation of the client, can you give the client an impairment rating, basically showing she needs surgery? It's not an option right now. And because it's not an option right now, she's lost X% of function in whatever body part she's complaining about. Because that will help display a future damage model that she needs surgery. She can't have it now. Doesn't mean she's not going to need it in the future. But because there's a recommendation from a licensed professional that says she will, it needs to be included in the compensation even if she doesn't actually get the procedure right now. And so it's all about collecting the information from the doctor and having a candid conversation with the client to make sure that even if they don't get all the treatment they need today, it's at least explainable and understandable based on the documentation what the case value might be based on the recommendation from the doctor themselves.
So it sounds like expert opinions like medical evaluations or any sort of future care plans have a big role in deciding whether to settle or delay a settlement.
Correct. I mean, what insurance companies don't like to consider the fact that an accident is a complete interruption of somebody's lifestyle. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if a mother is driving her kids to school and gets T-boned, she wasn't planning on spending the day at the hospital. And because of that time in the hospital, she had to hire somebody to watch her kids while she recovered. She had to hire somebody to watch her kids and take them to school while she did physical therapy. Insurance companies don't consider the fact that because of the negligence of somebody else, it was a disruption of their average lifestyle, that they were just cool going along, going with the flow until somebody interrupted it. And so that's an important thing to display because insurance companies don't consider that, and they should, which is why even if they don't get the medical care that they're recommended for because of their obligations, it also is an argument that's reasonable to make sure that it's included in their pain and suffering argument because they have a lot of out-of-pocket expenses. They weren't able to spend time with their kids. They had radiating pain and weren't able to sleep, so they had to wake up and take care of their kids, and they were in pain the whole time. There's a complete whole story that is outside the realm of medical bills that needs to be told to make sure the compensation is calculated fairly.
So then how does settling too early affect a client's ability to seek compensation for those future medical expenses, maybe rehabilitation or lost wages?
Because if you settle early, then there is the likelihood that enough time went by for those things to be documented, to be presented, don't exist yet. So if you open a claim based on an accident you had 2 weeks ago, the insurance company offers you $5,000, and because it's Christmas and you need the money to buy gifts for your kids, totally get that. Don't blame me at all. But if you accept the $5,000 2 weeks after the accident occurred, and your symptomology or your care plan hasn't been developed yet for me to get those recommendations for whatever you may need in the future, there's not enough time for me to present that for you to get the fair value. And that's the risk, is not necessarily taking the money too early, but settling so early that there's not enough time for that information to develop for me to present that information for you to get the correct value.
Okay, so building on that point, what steps can clients take to ensure they're not settling prematurely and that potential long-term consequences of the injury are properly accounted for?
I think it's important for the clients to ensure that they give themselves time to recover. For example, there are several clients that have soft tissue injuries or they have arthritis and they feel good after they treat, But then when the weather changes and it's 20 degrees outside, now they feel really bad because their muscles are tight, their arthritis is flaring up, and so they haven't reached the point where they've reached a full recovery yet. So you have to give yourself enough time to make sure that you've actually reached that point because, like I said, when you settle, it's game over. There's no going back. That's not to say to drag out treatment any longer than medically necessary, which is why we defer to the doctor to tell us whether they believe that the injury they're complaining of is accident-related or not. Obviously, if it's not accident-related, then it shouldn't be covered, and I don't think anybody disputes that. But if a medical professional is saying, yes, I believe that this injury they're complaining of is accident-related, then it should be covered. But you have to give yourself enough time to heal and enough time to figure out, yep, I'm pretty stable now, I feel good, I'm ready to move on. Because if you move too fast and you settle and then you say, well, that's not enough money for me because I'm still in pain, I need care in the future, that's too late.
So I appreciate that you're sharing a bit of information on some real world examples. Do you have another one where settling too early negatively impacted a client? And I'm curious, how would the situation have been handled differently with more time or information?
I had one client in particular who got his initial offer from the insurance company, and it was a decent offer. I'm one of those straightforward attorneys that says, if this offer is garbage, I'm going to tell you it's garbage. If it's at least something to consider, I'll tell you it's something to consider. And it was a good offer. And he said, you know what? This is a good offer. I want to take the first offer. Would he have gotten more money on his case? Probably so. How much it would have been, I don't know. I couldn't say in good faith, but I know that there was an opportunity to try. But like I said, settlement authority lies with the client and the client alone. So when he said, hey, I want to take the first offer, I think I'm good, then I said, okay. And he said, thank you for being cool about this. And I said, it's totally fine. This is your case. This is how this goes. If you want to take it, you're more than welcome to take it. I don't recommend it, but as long as you know that I have a different opinion and you're still fine with making the decision, then that's your right to do so. And he took the money and he was a happy camper. I think, and that happens sometimes. Like I said, some people don't want to go through the process and they don't want to wait. And I don't think it negatively impacted him other than the fact that he probably could have gotten more money. But if he's happy with it, then that's his right.
This was great information, Colin. Thank you again for joining us today.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for tuning in to the legal and financial implications of settling a personal injury case early. To connect with Colin and his team, visit boberlawfirm.com. And please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review on our channel.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.